So who's actually protesting at Parliament? If you believe the politicians, it would be ferals, filth and fascists. But maybe it's not. There's been a survey done. You'll be fascinated by the results. Let's check it out. Yeah, and you'll notice a slightly different background. Our family is in lockdown, close contacts. A couple of us have got COVID. So 10 days based here. So we'll be doing McBLOG from home venue. The other thing is that I've been involved in a few protests. I've organised a few. The March for Life down in Wellington, the Electoral Finance Act bill that we were marching against, the March for Democracy. And what I find is that you've got the core group, but then you also seem to get extras that add on. They seem to be career protesters, and they use a gathering of people to push their particular narrative. And unfortunately, they can be extreme, they can be badly behaved, and they can be the ones that the media tend to focus on because they're more newsworthy. But the question is, who's actually at Parliament grounds? Now, if you believed the media and the politicians, it is the worst of the worst. Listen to what Jacinda Ardern says.
Yelling abuse at people who are walking around with masks on, occupying spaces where businesses are operating, blocking people's ability to move around freely. That is moving beyond a protest. In fact, to me, it looks like an imported style of protest that I have not seen in New Zealand before, complete with Trump flags and Canadian flags.
Oh my gosh, can you believe it? Trump flags. Shock horror. Canadian flags. Those beautiful Canadians. That is just, you know, that shows that it's just a really, really bad protest apparently. Although probably the worst comments, I mean, Trevor Mallard said that it was all ferals down on Parliament grounds. But Michael Wood, who's a cabinet minister, said this in Parliament.
This place, there are people who I think we all feel for. There are some people who are confused. There are some people who are scared. There are some people who have been manipulated by an avalanche of misinformation. There are some people who have been hurt over the past couple of years and they're lashing out, and we feel for those people. But underneath all of that, Madam Speaker, there is a river of filth. There is a river of violence and menace. There is a river of anti-Semitism. There is a river of Islamophobia. There is a river of threats to people who work in this place and our staff. And those are things that we should not in any way be condoning, things that we should be apologists for, things that we should be overlooking with a rhetoric that it's all just good people and maybe we should talk about it and maybe we should put the mandates up for negotiation. I would say, Madam Speaker, that there is a river of genuine fascism in parts of the event that we see out the front of this Parliament.
Oh, wow. Can you count how many negative words? There was fascist and filth and Islamophobia. I mean, it was just like, let's see how many negative labels we can grab. And of course, there's the petition going around on change.org, which says that it's criticising a group of conspiracy theorists, religious cult members, anti-vaxxers, anti-mandate believers, and flat earthers. Can you believe that? Now, interestingly enough, there's actually another petition which is supporting the protest, but the media are only focusing on that negative one, not on the other one. So, you know, go figure, we know why. But anyway, there was a survey that was done by Curia Market Research, reputable polling company, and they actually went to Parliament grounds and they walked around and interviewed people face to face. More than 300 people. And the results are fascinating of who's actually at Parliament grounds. Let's have a look at these results. Firstly, where do the protesters live? You'll notice there that the big chunk is from the provincial areas. So it's not just the city people, it's not just Aucklanders or Wellingtonians, but it's the provincial city areas. How old are the protesters? Well, there's not a lot of over 61-year-olds there, maybe because it's pretty harsh conditions there with the rain and the wind and the camping, but a wide spread of ages. What ethnic groups? Well, the interesting thing about this is that Maori are disproportionately represented, 27% of the protesters, and yet they represent what, about 15-16% of the population. So that sort of challenges that whole white supremacist label that has been given to the march. They then asked who the protesters voted for in 2020, and this is classic, because if you look on the right hand side there, Labour and the Greens make up about, what is it, 45% of the crowd that are there. In fact, of the 5 parties in Parliament, the report says, The most overrepresented are the Maori Party, which has 3 times greater support amongst protesters than in the election, and the Greens, who have twice as much. Now, they also said, are the protesters vaccinated? Not surprisingly, 76-77% were unvaccinated. But look, that's a big wad that are vaccinated or partly vaccinated, 1 in 4. So that shows that their focus is on the mandates, that it's not an anti-vax protest per se. And when they actually asked people why they were there, to actually verbalise it, it was a constant theme of mandates, mandates, mandates. You know, these are fascinating results because, sure, there has been some bad behaviour, unacceptable behaviour, but you do tend to attract that fringe. But by the large, this is a group of Kiwis who are concerned about mandates. My recommendation to the government is stop the negative labels, show some respect, and do some dialogue. And Trevor, turn off the sprinklers. Good timing.